How's it going, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the James Loud Podcast. And today, my special guest is Dale Sky Jones, Chancellor of Oaksterdam. How are you doing today?
I am fantastic, James. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Thank you for coming on the show. Really excited to have you here. Angela Baca, our mutual friend, kind of hooked this up. We've met before.
Yes, we have a mutual admiration for Miss Baca and her talents.
She is absolutely amazing.
Indeed.
You know, it's like, it's rare to find someone. For me, I like waking up early. I wake up about 5 a.m. and she wakes up at 4. And so she's ready to go. She's for those of you who don't know, she is the editor for my book. She produced a lot of good content for the book as well. So she wasn't just the editor, but contributing writer. And she's also working with you guys, or has worked with you in the past on a lot of stuff.
Well, she's also the editor of the book we just published, the Bud Tender's Guide.
Really cool.
So, we also recently published a second guide as well for writers, authors, especially so many journalists that are covering this. That's a style guide similar, to the AP guide that you might use to just know proper terminology. And she also worked on another book. I wrote the sustainability chapter, and several Oaksterdam experts worked on Ed Rosenthal's Cannabis Growers Guide. So,
right.
She is multi-talented and works with us on a lot of projects.
She's super organized. She's super driven. She's a rare breed. You don't
Anyone
get a lot
to keep
people.
up with the likes of us is,
exactly.
is
And
yes.
I'm like, okay, 5 a.m. I'm ready to work.
That's late for us, my friend.
Yeah,
5?
seriously, 5
Come on,
is
it's already
late.
8 a.m. on the East Coast.
Yeah, and she's already been rocking for an hour. Seriously. and it's like I do my cold plunge in the morning and I get ready to go. I do it religiously every day. Cold plunge, game changer for me. I don't drink coffee first thing in the morning. Now I do that. And I feel like I'm more productive. So.
That's, and it's so interesting to talk about different strokes for different folks, because I have something called cyclic vomiting syndrome.
Oh, wow.
And one of my triggers is cold.
Really?
So that would put me in the hospital if I did a cold plunge in the morning. That would not be a good day for me.
Well, cold plunge is so interesting because I feel like...
I know the science is there. I just personally can't
But the first time I looked at the water, I was like, that is going to kill me. There's no way I'm going to go in there and be okay.
If you stay in there long enough, it will, hypothermia, but not
what
you're doing.
Yes and no, but I do 15-minute plunges sometimes, and I go, they say 3 to 6 minutes, and I've pushed it to 15 because I'm like, this guy, Rick Rubin, he does 30 minutes. Joe Rogan, he does 20. I can do 15. And I don't feel like I get more benefit from doing 15 minutes than I do from doing 8. And so I sit around 8 minutes, and it's 45 degrees right now. So I was doing colder, and now I settle around there. I feel really good afterwards.
Mm-hmm. You found your sweet spot.
Yeah, and everyone's body chemistry is different. It's kind of how cannabis works.
Yeah.
I feel like there's no one specific cultivar that works for everybody across the board. I mean, I think cannabis in general, like in generally speaking, works for pretty much everybody, but there are nuances to it, and certain people like stuff that's sedative, and some people like stimulants.
Well, I would also add the method of ingestion matters.
Yeah.
How you consume it really affects your experience. And it's something that's really, I think, under discussed. There's a lot of localities and states that are afraid of smoke. They're afraid even of vapor. They've outlawed any type of combustion, and they drive everyone towards edibles. But there's a whole nother issue with edibles that folks don't seem to understand when your liver metabolizes versus your bloodstream. So you can be more like tripping on acid. You hear the funnest or funniest stories of people thinking they're melting or dead. I always go back to the cop that called 911, telling them that if you had taken our class, you'd have known better. But that it truly is metabolized. 11-hydroxy-THC is more psychoactive. Yeah. And you really, it can melt you in that same way.
I feel like it's stronger than LSD in a lot of ways. Like for me personally, and
you
not
eat
everybody's.
Enough brownies it is. Yeah.
Well, and back in the day, we didn't really measure what we were taking. There wasn't like milligrams. We were like, okay, we're going to put this much in this amount of butter.
How high.
Yeah.
But that's also, I dare say, how we bred CBD out of so many varietals, is because folks were passing around how high was the measure. And what was, they basically throw it away to patients, and patients are like, holy shit, this is really helping me.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until around 2007 when we finally started testing for it that it was like, oh, there's this whole other thing going on here that
Totally.
no one understood. And these were still underground labs.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and then Reggie Gaudino, he's been on the show. He wrote the foreword for my book. So he kind of paved the way for some of that stuff. And yeah, it's really interesting testing and also the market. And we're still an uneducated market in the whole of the market. I feel like it's getting there. It's getting better. I see improvements. But as far as like, we're still focused on THC. We're still focused on look. I'm excited for the day where we can sell you the joint, the pre-roll, where it's all pre-roll driven, like brands are pre-roll driven, where you don't even need to look at it. It doesn't make you feel good. Does it taste great? Those are the two important things in my opinion, because some of the best stuff that gets overlooked, it's not aesthetically pleasing. Some of my favorite things over the years have been absolutely the ugliest strains.
Oh, let's talk about aesthetics, shall we? I would love to jump on this bandwagon, especially before we turn this on. You said not a lot of women join the podcast, and I think there's a few different things going on with looks, and part of the problem is just North American bias. Yeah. That what we are accustomed to, at least what we're accustomed to saying looks good and is worth money, is generally what we're accustomed to seeing from NorCal and those tight nugs in the jar. But that has to do with, where it was grown on the earth. We're in northern latitude. Yeah. And then folks go, oh, well, I was in the islands and it was all stringy and ugly, but wow, it smoked nice. I'm like, yeah, that's because it's great quality cannabis. It just doesn't look like what you're expecting. And I think this same concept around like body image, that you had to be stick thin, white, tall, skinny to be beautiful for years. And now it's like, you got booty, that is beautiful. Well, it was always beautiful. Right. It's just, what aesthetic are you putting forward and what is most familiar? What are you seeing on the magazines? What are you seeing out there as held up as beautiful? And I think it's just continuing to have the conversations like you are about what makes quality, what makes the best experience. Yeah, it's all about defining quality and perspective. And it's like Instagram hasn't really been helpful in that regard. When is Instagram ever helpful? No, it's so difficult. It's I have a love-hate relationship with Instagram, and it's been great. I'm a hit and run driver at best. Yeah, it's tough. Well, and especially for cannabis and for flower, you see the stuff that looks amazing, and most of the stuff that looks really amazing, and especially the stuff that's super high THC, doesn't necessarily taste the best or give you the best effect, in my opinion. And everybody has their opinion. Some people are chasing the high and they want to get as high as possible, and flavor doesn't really matter. They just want to be high, and that's okay too. So it's all subjective to the individual. Well, but ironically, when you blind taste test, the highest THC is not usually the winner of what makes people feel it's the best. And and it's not always the strongest. That's that's my point. Yeah. Terpenes, flavonoids, what's the new term for abstract tech? I don't know if you saw that. They just put out some white papers, I think 6 white papers about basically thiols, and really interesting. I mean, I think we've known about thiols. I've known about thiols since 2018. We've been reading about them and their importance. And, that's what gives you the gas and the skunk and some of the offensive smells. I really like offensive smelling weed. So it's kind of like cilantro, right? Yeah, it's either totally soap or delicious. Yeah, exactly. And I feel that way and about I'm a cilantro diesel. Guy. So I'm like, not so much. I don't feel like licking a gas tank. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, burnt tire, latex gloves, that chem smell. No, that, you give me any haze and I will follow you to the ends of the earth. So bring that back to humans. Part of what we've always taught, your nose knows. Yeah. And what's remarkable is when we break down the science and then start to correlate that to the effects on what are your symptoms, not even what's the disease, but just what are you suffering from? Yeah. And we start to take a look at different things, and the doctors that have now collected hundreds and thousands of testimonials are starting to also see those correlations where their nose knows. Yeah. And it is what is actually helping them. And that goes back to maybe why it became about the numbers. We no longer have apothecary style it's nearly obsolete.
Mhm.
You can no longer go in and sniff before you buy.
Right. It's really sad.
So it's just, and now you're not even allowed to package in a lot of places. So all you can say is the label.
Yeah.
That's it. And so what do you have to look at? Well, the one thing you're familiar with, what's the THC? How high?
Or the brand name.
Yeah.
Cookies or whatever.
Well, you're
it is.
definitely paying for the brand name in a lot of the brands.
Yeah. And I think.
Is it quality? Is it consistency? That is the question.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard state by state.
Well, and the thing is what's going to happen in a more mature market is we're going to start trusting brands that we know. And you go buy, from one company, you buy their brand 3 or 4 times and you have a product you like, you're going to trust that company. You're going to tell other people about it. And the next time you go in, as long as it maintains the quality that you're looking for, and that's the future of the industry too, like the trusted brand, because I think there's been a lot of brands where they're associated with a celebrity or
influencer driven. And that's still.
Yeah, and that's still okay, but as long as it's paired with a good product, because you have one time with a customer, right? If you have, I'm not going to name any named celebrity brands, but some of these guys put out really shit in the beginning, and I think they learn their lesson because you get your customer to buy it once, and maybe you have this big surge in the beginning, but they're not going to buy the product again if it's garbage.
Especially not for the price you're charging for your name.
No, and the thing is after taxes, people paying $65 for an eighth, and it's like if you're a real smoker, an eighth doesn't go very far.
No.
So.
No, that doesn't fill. Is that an eighth?
Yeah, those are 3.5 gram joints. Yeah.
Just eyeballing it.
Yeah. And it's like, and I prefer the eighth size joint. And if you have really good flower, you smoke it down to the roach, you could put that out 5 or 6 times and it's still going to taste good.
Yeah.
So, and that's my determining factor, especially now when I give flower out to my friends because we're trying new phenotypes. They don't get the flower, they get joints. So it's because it puts everybody on the same playing field. And then when you do that, you get honest feedback from people. And I feel like it's the feedback that I'm looking for. So it's you get one guy who has a bong and one guy who has a joint and one guy who does this or that, and he has a glass pipe and it's dirty. You never know what you're going to get as far as feedback. So I feel like it's a truer way to get honest feedback.
Well, and it's also one of the safer ways to consume cannabis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, depending on how you feel about germs. If you're sharing.
Well, no, that for you alone.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It's the puff pass has become questionable at best.
Yeah.
It probably always was. We're just a lot more conscientious.
Yeah. We used to get the cup cough. We'd go to Amsterdam and come back with the cup cough.
What do you mean used to? Everyone just came back from MJ BizCon and they're all telling me how sick they are. It's like,
cold
everybody
plunge.
caught the crud.
They need more cold plunging. I feel like stressing your body out is, it's good for your immune system.
Yeah,
so
take some D3.
Yeah, D3 is I take a lot of D3. So I also have Crohn's disease. So Angela also has Crohn's.
Yes.
But I've cured my Crohn's through cannabis and I believe cold plunging. And I think those two pieces are the determining factor. I was on biologics where I had to get injected with the drug every 2 months. I had to get an infusion in my blood and I'm off that it'll be a year next week, which is pretty amazing.
Congratulations.
So yeah, thank you very much.
It's wonderful to just find homeostasis in your life.
Yeah, and balance, and it's all those things are great.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about Oaksterdam. What have you guys been up to lately?
Oh my goodness, what haven't we been up to lately? Yeah. I'm so proud of my team. It's phenomenal. Where do I begin? We just graduated a cohort in the state of Connecticut. So we were hired by the state of Connecticut Social Equity Council a year ago. And we got to work actually a year and a half ago. And we had a cohort go through a full-blown accelerator. And this is the first time a state has truly invested in, from beginning to end, soup to nuts, what an operator needs to be a startup. And the fact that we were given the time with each participant. We got all the way through from teaching the business of cannabis and the supply chain. Then we went into an entrepreneurial coaching program where we had professionals work with them to build business plans. Then we worked with ArcView. So it's kind of like having the Shark Tank coach before you go pitch. Yeah. And then we brought a bunch of investors together in Connecticut and had our graduates pitch to real live investors. And in fact, on the way here, I just got notice that one of our participants just got funded. So
that's amazing.
Like Sol Marie, I'm
congratulations.
So proud of you.
That's wonderful.
I'm over the moon. Just the opportunity to see them grow and thrive. And especially, we had both 100% owners where they were on their own solo making it happen. And we had some that were partnered with MSOs. Yep. And I got the chance to speak with one of the MSO partners who just described the change in that participant. Like, they were quiet in the room. They had nothing to say. And by the time they were done with this accelerator, they were a true partner in the business. Wow. And not that second class partner that so many social equity participants are relegated to. And true change is happening. So
that's awesome when you hear success stories like that. It's just, and they're there. There's a lot of success stories, and it's a tough time in the industry, so people need to hear those kind of success stories. I think.
Let me be your head of hope, James. Yeah, totally. I have many, and we were recently hired by the New Jersey Economic Development Authority to do not quite as grand a program, but to definitely help launch some of the participants that are getting a grant from the state. We've been working with the city of Los Angeles for over 3 years now. Wow. Working with the social equity participants down there, in the city of Oakland, Palm Springs, Monterey County, the growers out there. There's a couple of really phenomenal growers that are managing to get permanent licenses. So helping Legacy secure their space in the new industry is also really gratifying.
So important.
It is.
So important.
These are the shoulders we stand on.
Yeah. And it's like the people that help build the industry are the people that deserve a place here.
Indeed.
I can't talk about it enough. And coming from the legacy market and coming from the traditional side of things, it's like it's changed so much in the last, the landscape has changed so much, and the barrier for entry has changed so much. You talked about New Jersey, and that's a tough nut to crack.
Always, New Jersey is always
like to get into that industry. Yeah, it's one of those ones.
It's harder than New York.
Yeah, it's way harder than New York. They really limited the licenses, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think limiting the licenses is good to a degree, but it's like depending on how far you limit them. But I have mixed feelings about New Jersey, but I think New York is really impressive. And we're all learning from each other. Like Oregon, they overdid it and they allowed too many licenses. And so there's got to be a fine balance. And, I'm not an expert on the subject, but I
have some experts on that subject.
I bet.
And there's fascinating arguments. And I think this is, go gadget federalism. This is the 10th Amendment at work.
Yeah.
And I'm actually look up the States Act if you get the chance, because it just dropped yesterday, the States Act 2.0 to deschedule, because right now we're talking about rescheduling and no Schedule 3. But we could go off on so many tangents, James.
I'm telling
Which
you.
way do you want to go?
So we definitely need to.
Now.
I had Andrew D'Angelo, and we've had other guests on talking about reschedule versus deschedule. And I am very anti reschedule, and I am very pro deschedule completely.
We're gonna get along just fine.
Yeah, right. I can't even imagine trying to reschedule at this point. It's not right.
There are so many things wrong.
If you work with the pharmaceutical industry, maybe, it's like, let's reschedule. Oh,
you mean the ones that have been paying millions and billions to keep it illegal while they furiously study how to make money off it?
Yeah, and it's, can
we walk and chew gum at the same time? Listen, It needs to be pharmaceuticalized. We need to be able to utilize this in medicine, and doctors and nurses need to be able to call up, 10 cc's of whatever for folks that are suffering through radiation, chemotherapy, whatever that is. We definitely need to find ways for the FDA, like let's legalize research. Hey, descheduling would do that, and decriminalizing. And that's the other half of this, is just taking the teeth out of the criminality.
Right.
And at this point, I have folks argue it's just a softer, gentler prohibition.
Yeah, and it's like, but I think a lot of people are conditioned. We had Brandon from In-House Genetics, and he said it really best. Is like people are like, well, Schedule 3 is better than Schedule 1. It's like, is it really? And he argued the fact, and he agrees 100%. And it's like, it's not. And there's a lot of people who are saying, well, it's not Schedule 1. But that's true. But is it better? No, I don't think it's better.
I don't think we understand the ramifications of USDA and FDA and the folks mucking around and not letting who's doing it keep doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and these are all difficult conversations and things that need to be talked about openly. And we need to have some hard conversations about really what are we looking for out of this stuff, and who are we supporting by saying that Schedule 3 is okay? So,
Indeed. And, full disclosure, I sit on a committee with several folks that have these conversations with Law Enforcement Action Partnership, LEAP. She's actually on our board as well, the executive director, Diane Goldstein. And we also, Americans for Prosperity, Reason, there are several groups that have these conversations. And again, we can go back to the pharmaceuticalization of the various medicinal aspects and research, but we need to start from a deschedule footing. It needs to be removed from the Drug Enforcement Agency and the Controlled Substances Act, first and foremost. And I don't fault the folks that are willing to settle. I'm not.
Right.
I'm not willing to take that trade. I'm not willing to trust it.
No, through actions and a stack of evidence, we have a lot of reason not to trust it.
Indeed. And that's why I keep mentioning the States Act 2.0 is because what we also need is an alternative to point two.
Yep.
And right now, to have the rescheduling, Schedule 3, on the table without a what else, it just becomes a yes, no. And what we need is an also and an option.
Right.
And the States Act 2.0 offers the option of descheduling. And it's not going to be, a switch that flips overnight. We're talking about a slow, painful process that also has to happen in nearly every state or commonwealth in the nation. I think Virginia didn't adopt the failed federal policy of Schedule 1. Everybody else has a lot of work to do, state by state as well. So it's not going to happen overnight, but
nothing good ever does.
No, it's not. That's worth it. Indeed.
So let's take a step back and talk about Oaksterdam University and how you got involved with Oaksterdam and where the start came about.
Well, the area named Oaksterdam, Oakland and Amsterdam was really founded by my husband, Jeff Jones. And he was the first to work with the city of Oakland. He was permitted and helped dispense medical cannabis to the necessity patients back in the 90s. He actually started before the law was passed. And worked, he sat at the feet of Dennis Perone and learned many things and decided to go the route of a medical cannabis dispensary versus a club. Yeah. That he really wanted to take on the mantle that would be adoptable in South Dakota, where he was from and where he lost his dad. He was first rated by the Clinton administration, wound up winning in the Ninth Circuit. So it was legal. I have a picture of him handing a legal bag of cannabis to a medical patient. He was legal for about 6 weeks before the stay that took him to the Supreme Court and the battle that took over his life. Wow. His grower, who he had moved out from Texas, named Richard Lee, went ahead and picked up the permit and picked up the mantle. And it was Richard who founded Oaksterdam University in 2007. Now, I was a fly on the wall, just starting to date Mr. Jones, falling in love with both of them at the same time, the Oaksterdam concept of a school, because I come from a corporate training background and just vocational adult learning, helping people be the best them that they can be. And the school, when I first started, I came in working with doctors. So I immediately looked for, well, where's the education? What do you mean there isn't any? So the only educators I found were, they all worked with Jeff because he was the one that was trying to teach patients how to be safe and responsible, how to find medicine, and while he couldn't dispense it himself. And I started volunteering. I showed up to the first class in LA to help make coffee. And again, just the fly on the wall. I was obsessed with the concept of training, but because I worked with doctors, I would have been the bridge to aiding and abetting a felony. So
crazy.
I couldn't put my name on anything because I was representing them. The doctor, though, that was supposed to teach that day got lost in Compton. And
oh man,
he was fine. But the long and short of it was they didn't have a teacher. And so the facilitator ran up and said, hey, do you think you work with patients? Do you think you could cover this material? And I looked at it and it was almost verbatim what I talked to patients and doctors about. And I'm like, sure, I can do that. Never missed a class, replaced myself at the doctor's office and became Chancellor of LA, and then eventually got involved with the campaign that I accidentally became the spokeswoman of. I say that because I kept thinking I was going to go back to corporate America. I wasn't ready to come out. I was just behind the scenes, prodding everybody else to do it.
Right.
But there was nobody else to do it. And when Richard decided to put his money where his mouth was and pay for the first legalization campaign in 30 years, the first elected official that was supposed to show up was suffering from his chemo treatments. And frankly, the voter initiative would have been dead on arrival. And so I said, well, do we have what he was going to say? Can't, half of this is print media anyway, just read it.
Right.
And they're like, okay, read it. I'm like, no, not me.
Right.
And so as they shoved me from behind in front of a bank of cameras for my first full-blown press conference, suddenly I was the spokeswoman for the Prop 19 campaign.
Yeah.
And then I became the legislative liaison and the community liaison because we were just a small ragtag group of rebels just trying to make a point. And then suddenly we were winning. And then the next thing we know, everyone's, they start taking you seriously when you're at, 54% in the polls. Mm-hmm. You're a threat. So we got not one, but two October surprises. We had the Governor Schwarzenegger signed it was vetoed 4 times. It was the largest decriminalization measure in history for California. And the result of that was 87%. James, that's 9 out of 10 people that didn't go to jail the very next year because we pressured him into signing that decrim measure here in California. And more effective than any other state that just legalized because they only legalized for 21 and up. We decriminalized for everyone. Yeah. And so that was the biggest win. The second was just sparking the conversation, the debate internationally, because we were the only thing to talk about in 2010. Yeah. So while we had every living DEA, every living drug czar, and the president of the No On campaign was our former Senator Dianne Feinstein, mm-hmm. and our current Vice President Kamala Harris wrote the ballot argument against us. I mean, these are the good old days, my friend.
Oh, yeah.
We really did our coalition of NAACP and unions and doctors and environmentalists and, yes, legacy people went on to change the law in a lot of these other states. And wow. I cannot say enough about our students who are, it's not the secret to our success. I shout it from the rooftops. They are behind the success of so much change because we taught them advocacy, and it was them that went out to their neck of the woods and changed the law from city council to state to nation, whether it's Germany. We're seeing changes in Thailand. And then I get emails from my students. It's like, oh my, that was you. Yeah. Like that was us. Holy crap. It's
pretty wild.
We really have changed the world. Yeah. It's mind blowing.
Well, pioneering education and then, the influence from all the students that have come through. It's just amazing. And, you guys were kind of the gateway to the industry for a lot of people.
Yeah. And we were willing to let the cameras in.
Yeah.
And I look back just how bananas, the stories I can tell. But letting the cameras in, I think, was really important. And then also just seeing a dude in a wheelchair and a pregnant redhead of, that's not that scary drug dealer in the corner.
Totally.
Like, wait a minute, who's that? And people make fun of Cheech and Chong, and, I'm certainly guilty of that. Having met Tommy several times now, I realize how intentional he was to always portray cannabis in positive light. Mm-hmm. I knew that he was an intelligent and brilliant writer and comic, but I didn't understand the intentionality of it was dumb fun, but it was never evil or scary or dangerous. Right. It was always fun and uplifting and funny. But the only folks that were willing to come out were the ones that, your mama didn't want you to grow up to be like.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't that, cannabis made you stupid. It was just stupid people enjoy cannabis, and they were the ones willing to talk about it out loud and get busted.
Fearless.
Right.
Yeah.
And so are we stupid or crazy? It's hard to say. But it really took folks that just look like middle America that mm-hmm. we're not scary. We're just like
to normalize it.
Yeah. And destigmatize.
Yeah, and it's funny how normalized it's become. It still has a long ways to go in some regards. But,
we're not there yet.
No, but I feel like Sanjay Gupta did a lot when he went on 60 Minutes and said that kids that have seizures have now been cured from their seizures, or they've had a lot less seizures from CBD.
He's an amazing example of evolution. He also, by the way, came out against Prop 19.
Yeah.
And little Charlotte Fiji changed his life and ours across the board, because it really illustrated, you can't ignore these videos of babies seizing, and I can't even talk about it or I'm going to start crying. So no.
Yeah.
And it really, and dying, that are they seizing? Are they learning? Are they growing? Sanjay Gupta and the ability to have that conversation on CNN, the ability, I didn't tell my friends at the time, but the ability to go talk about it on Fox all the time.
Yeah.
That's half of America. And if you've got Stuart Varney talking about the money, then we're also capturing, Wall Street, not just K Street. And we've already convinced, I think, Main Street in most places.
Sanjay Gupta, he was our Trojan horse. He was the voice for all of us in some regards, and it's like telling my parents all these years that cannabis isn't bad, and them kind of arguing with me. And, I think after seeing that, they completely changed. Like that one 60-minute episode, like literally an hour, changed the lives of so many people, because you can't argue when you have kids. It's like you can't argue that people need, they should have the right, as long as it's not hurting them, to do whatever they want to make them better.
And how brave are Charlotte's parents? And she also passed in 2020. A lot of people don't realize that. Her parents, risked losing her. And this is a threat still everywhere. Even here in California, people are still losing their children over cannabis.
Yeah.
They're still splitting up families.
It's sick. It's really sick. Like that you could do that, or that you have to go to some other state to save the life of your kid.
Exactly. That you are a medical refugee.
We're not even going to get abortions or anything like that. That's a whole nother shitty conversation. But it's like these laws, and I have my own opinion. Other people that watch the show, you have an opinion, and there's nothing wrong with that. But like when it comes to your kids, especially, like I don't understand how we can do that. So.
And for our pro-life friends, I have the argument that if you are pro-life, then you had better be pro-cannabis.
Yeah.
Because pro-cannabis is pro-life. And for the rest of us, yes, we just hope to have the freedom if we need medical attention.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. At the end of the day.
It's about freedom. Mm-hmm. And this is the conversation across the board. It's the freedom to be able to protect yourself with the Second Amendment, which also has been stripped from cannabis consumers. There's just about every amendment in the first 10 have been subjugated by the war on drugs, by prohibition. And, these are largely the people we serve. We've always taught I can't even believe some of the titans of the industry, but the ones that I choose to talk about most often tend to be those that were justice involved, that did spend time in jail. The
right.
King of Weed on Haight Street. He's always been the King of Weed on Haight Street for like 30 years now. And Sean Richard has been there doing it. Now he's the legal King of Weed on Haight Street.
Right.
And we get the asterisk at Oaksterdam, like over the line. And now he's balling, man. I mean, people are paying him just to be on their boards. Like it's his experience is far beyond legacy. His experience now is in the boardroom, not just the courtroom. So he's really, and there's so many firsts that have come through and that are yet to come, because there are states that aren't there yet. There are businesses yet to be founded.
Yeah.
And it's, this is the argument for maybe free market, is there's yokels that should get the hell out too. And the free market pushes out often those that are less than. I just had a conversation with someone from Oregon saying it rocks because the losers get out.
Yeah.
You can, having that low barrier to entry is one of the best equalizers out there.
Yeah.
And so you look to Oklahoma and it's, just organically more equitable because there are no barriers to entry.
Yeah.
Now, are they all good operators? No. Absolutely not.
No.
There should be standards. There should be training. There should be more better. Yes. Mo better. Yeah, for sure. Like in Oregon, it's a perfect example, but it's so competitive in Oregon and the price is so cheap, and then nobody wants to pay the higher price for the product. Yeah.
And I wouldn't say nobody, because You got the
you've always got the
archives.
folks that just want to show how much they've paid for a product.
Yeah. And I'm all about the quality. Is at the end of the day, like I don't really, I don't, shouldn't say that I don't care what it costs, because I think cost is important for people. But for me, it's about an experience a lot of times. And I'll pay something more for a special experience. And I might not smoke that all the time, but I'm chasing that experience.
Yeah.
There's guys chasing the dragon that want to get as high as they can, flavor chasers. And I chase the flavor too. But I feel like I'm chasing that experience, and I'm trying to find something new. I always trying to find something new, and that kind of goes along with breeding. So like we're looking for that new gem, something that's slightly different or completely different. I would love to find something that's completely different. Show me some some green tea flavor or some red bean ice cream.
Yeah. Spoken like a true pheno hunter.
Yeah, I'm always looking for weird stuff, but. So what have you seen as far as new genetics and new flavors? You love sativas and you love that stimulant for the effect, but also the flavor, I assume.
Yeah, I'll just say I trust my nose. It's hard to say.
Yeah.
I am awful with these conversations because I married a grower. And so whenever folks ask me like, what's my favorite, Mr. Jones' finest. Whatever he's doing is
whatever
what
he's
I
got
like.
right now. Yeah.
He did finally, after years of looking, he found a haze, and we just have a small garden. We're not, this.
Which everybody should have.
Yeah, this is next to the tomatoes and the basil.
Absolutely,
and we've got chickens too, so we get but it just takes so damn long that you can't find it on the market is the problem, because the super silver haze, it's if you can turn over this many crops in a year versus this many crops in a year, it's 3 to 5 is a huge difference on being able to pull the money out of it.
8.5 week super silver. So it's really good.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. So I'll talk to Jeff about that one.
One more time.
But it's a short flowering super silver. Was
it crossbred with a? Go ahead.
It's just a short flowering version. It's good.
Okay.
It's really good. But there's and then there's all kinds of stuff out there. I think there's some really good hazes that
is it crossed with an autoflower, or is it?
I don't know.
No.
It's good. It's really good.
It just works.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. I mean, so, and then people have gone through a lot of things to find stuff like that. And I'm sure it's crossed with something, but you guys can check it out.
I would love that.
I might even have some flower here for you to check out later to take home with you.
Oh, goodness.
So yeah. And
you're going to spoil a girl.
I've been getting into the sativas too, as far as like the piff, going back to some classics though, like the piff and the Cuban black. I've been enjoying those quite a bit lately. But yeah, I enjoy a little bit of everything. So I like some stuff to wake me up, and I like some stuff to make me tired, and I'm always looking for something different. But
yeah, no, and we enjoy salads. I think that's also the bigger reason that I struggle on, what's my favorite, because we like to blend. It's just a better experience overall over time. And yeah, it's the good news is he is so good at what he does. And he is your horticulture faculty, not me. So we have several. Joey Urieta has been just worldwide at this point. It's phenomenal. The folks that started, just coming into our classroom and teaching people how to grow are now masters of the universe. It's phenomenal. Yeah.
Well, and it's a repetition thing too, like learning how to grow. And
I fucking it up. Oh, am I allowed to curse?
Yes,
I'm going to curse.
You can fuck it up all you want to.
I already did. Yeah. It's too late for that.
You can totally curse on the show. We appreciate cursing. It's okay. But yeah, I think, and that goes for everything in life. You should fuck it up a bunch. Like figure it out. Experiment.
You gotta fuck it up and then get back up.
You really learn who you are in the grow room, outside the grow room, by making mistakes. And I've made plenty of mistakes. I've made mistakes my whole life and learned from them, especially growing and making seeds. It's like I've made seeds where I didn't have pollen ready and my reversals didn't work and screwed up everything.
Well, and what I try to share, with my kids, with my class is just, try not to make the same mistake over it. Make new, fresh mistakes each time.
Yeah. As a chef, I would allow people to make mistakes one time. You make the mistake one time. Oh, you can make different mistakes. That's okay. That's part of the learning process.
Exactly.
And I think with cannabis and with cultivation, it's really good to make mistakes, because if you never make mistakes, you never learn. Because that's the best way to learn, is to screw stuff up.
Indeed. And making room for that is important. And coming from hospitality and working with a multitude of chefs, I know you now.
Yeah.
All right. I see you.
Thank you. Yeah, but yeah, the whole chef mentality, and it's like get the job
Mise en
done.
place. Also, you have to have your stuff in place. Yes.
Everything in its place, and I think that's super important to be prepared. Whether it's scheduling is important, but also, do you have all those things on hand that you're going to need today, or do you have to go 3 times to the grow shop to get what you need? It's all proper planning, and if you start applying those things to life, your life's going to become much easier.
Indeed. It's I've gotten in the habit of like asking each day when I'm looking at my schedule and what I'm doing, am I moving myself closer to my goals or further away?
Yeah.
Because it is really what you do that cumulatively turns out as your life. Those little choices really add up.
Yeah, and what you do throughout the day is what you do all the time. Like everything is so repetition based, I think, for most of us. If you're lazy part of the time, you're lazy all the time. In my opinion.
But then how do you also break out of your own, because as much as repetition is vital, how do you also break out of your own habits? I talk about to do this every day. This industry is hard.
Yeah.
I mean, at capital H, it is so difficult. It gets harder every day for new and different reasons. And even just what's going to happen next week with the Fed, it's so tumultuous, and being able to both enjoy change, take it as eustress versus distress, and, be able to stay dynamic. But I try to how do you get out of bed every day and keep it not just on the days you feel inspired, days you don't.
Well, I got a little secret. It's put one foot in front of the other.
Yeah, right. It's tenacity.
And there's it's doing stuff on the days that you don't want to do it. That's what'll kind of define you.
And what I tell people is that I don't only get up that day, but I get up at 4 a.m. that day. And what is your competition doing? Yeah. And it's the days you don't want to do it. Exactly.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I think it's a lot about discipline, but it's like doing stuff that you don't want to do. That's like cold plunge is the perfect example. I don't really.
And going to bed at 8.
And going to bed at 8. Well, I wish I went to bed at 8.
Well, it's not that I go to bed at 8. I just get cranky after 8 because I get up at 4. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And we need our sleep. That's something that I appreciate sleep a lot more than I used to.
Well, and it's what is in your control. And that's what I finally realized a few years ago. And I think it was actually Ariana Huffington that made it okay to talk about. But, I used to pride myself on how much work and how little sleep. And I realized, at a certain point, never mind having a family and needing to find some trade-offs, but are you putting yourself in an early grade? For whom? Who's going to build a fucking statue? Right. What do you do? So the one thing I can control is how I eat and if I sleep. And I try to.
Well, and we all need different amounts of sleep, I think, to a degree, but sleep is super important. And quality sleep is more important than sleep, in my opinion.
Yeah. What do they say? You're only at 70% if you don't get enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you just walk around a dumbass all day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
I don't want to be an idiot or an asshole. So I try to get enough sleep.
Yeah. And yeah, for sure. Sleep is so important.
So let that be your...
I can't smoke too. I used to smoke right before I go to bed.
Yeah.
And I don't do that anymore.
You know what I just discovered? I'm going to out myself right now.
Yeah.
Because, I taught the damn science class. This methods of ingestion is my jam. And the science of cannabis and why this works. But I could never consume edibles. It was just done.
Wow.
It could be, Saturday morning, ready to go, and just I'm ready for a nap if you even wave a edible under my nose kind of thing. And yet I suffer from insomnia of the worst degree, and I just finally figured out edibles for sleeping.
And is it 2.5 milligrams?
Little itty bitty, whatever little gummy. It takes me 5 days if I just kind of gnaw a little itty bitty little. That was it. I was having too much.
Yeah. I'm the same way. So I did, how I learned it was Delta 8. So Delta 8 because I go through insomnia bouts and I'm sleeping really well right now. But for me, it's exercise, cold plunge, all these things. By the time I don't sleep as much as I probably should, but I sleep really good. When I sleep, I sleep. But if I am going to take a sleeping pill, I was taking Delta 8s. But really, Delta 8 is just 20% strength of Delta 9 THC. So you can just take less Delta 9 and you get the same effect.
Yeah. And I think that it's, shake it up a little, try stuff you haven't tried in a while.
Yeah. It's experimenting and knowing your body. And I think a lot of people rely on doctors to tell them what they need, when I think doctors should be able to guide you.
This is not taught in medical school.
No.
They don't even teach about the endocannabinoid system.
No, they don't. And I think, but like knowing your body, the only one who's going to know your body is, you can rely on doctors for stuff, but you should know your body better than any doctor and what you need.
This is truly the difficulty, I think, with cannabinoids and cannabis. First off, it's not water soluble, and all the easy drugs are water soluble, right? So the fact that it's hydrophobic is not helpful for really anything. Testing, all that. You've got to like burn it to test it in a lot of ways. How hard it is to work with, and equipment gets sticky. Everything. It's not friendly the way say the bark of a willow tree is. Which fun fact: women used to get burned at the stake over, and now it's aspirin. So the fact that it's so hard to work with, number one, but number two, because it affects each of us differently. And I think of a pendulum, right? And each of us, our pendulum swings differently. How much sleep did you get? Yeah. How much coffee did you drink? Water, exercise. Did your spouse or partner just piss you off? What, all kinds of things. Did the cherries just pop in your rear view? All of these things can affect your state of mind and how cannabis affects you from day to day, hour to hour. So the same dose or whatever it is you're consuming can affect you differently, even from Thursday to Friday. Yeah. And so for you to find homeostasis, for you to find that center of your own swinging pendulum, it's really, we've always focused on just teaching titration and moderation. You're also just wasting your money if you're smoking too much. Like, save it for the next guy. But just taking, unless you are the type of medical patient where cannabis, if you have MS or Parkinson's, where you really can't function without it. But if you're someone who is just, consuming commonly as much for adult use as for medicine, just even taking a break every once in a while and listening to your own body, because cannabis is so effective across different symptoms and systems. I worry for just a delay of diagnosis, that something that is wrong with you is being treated by cannabis, but not cured. Yeah. And what are you ignoring? Because the only doctor you go to is your pot doc. Yeah. And that's why good pot docs at least touch you. They take your pulse. They look for these things.
Dr. Frank Lucido, he just retired.
Sir. I'm so sad. He is a giant. He taught for us years ago.
Yeah. I mean, I've been seeing Frank since 2000, I think, maybe 99 to get my first.
I'll introduce you to Dr. Talleyrand. Maybe he'll pick you up as a...
Yeah, Frank Lucido, he's quite the character, and a really, really great guy, and good luck in your retirement. I think
cheers to Dr. Lucido.
Cheers to Lucido. Yeah. I mean, he was such a game changer, and he wrote a recommendation for cannabis for my friend's younger brother who was 14.
He was willing to do it. Yeah.
He was willing to do it, and he was the only one willing to. There was nobody else that would do anything like that, and he was quite, and this is back in 1999.
Yeah.
98 maybe, actually, when he wrote that. He was very brave. Yeah.
Yeah, indeed. And it was Dr. Todd McArea who had passed away in 2007 that was, helped found the Medical Cannabis Association, who helped push for that early testing that finally helped us realize that, it's like the Amazon rainforest in this one plant. And now it's just chase the varietals and try to say, we don't even know what we don't know. We're just unconsciously unskilled about all of this.
We're just scratching the surface.
Yeah. And that's what's so exciting is what next?
Totally. And we got guys like Dedi Miri in Israel, which he's really, he's paved the way for a lot of people. And we got Front Range Biosciences, and we've got, medicinal genomics, and guys really going on the genetic side, which are really impressive. But what they're doing over in Israel is really impressive because there's way less red tape, so they can do actual testing. And this all comes back to Schedule 1.
They've legalized research.
Which is crazy. So
we can do it. We can do it.
Yeah, we're getting there, and we're going to do it. So there's no way we're not going to do it. It just blows my mind that we're not there yet.
We just have to keep demanding it. And it's hard because Biden, he is not our biggest fan. And I don't, it's
well, it's so silly because I know whose fan he is. He's a fan of. And it's not us.
No.
So unfortunately, but things change and we evolve. And the thing is like the younger generation is so much more educated about cannabis, and so many more people have tried cannabis, and it's normalized to the younger generation. So over time, things will change.
Indeed. And it is, and this is why education is so important, because good Lord, our children will inherit the earth. And, the fear, the stigma, for so long in California, we're trying to convince people that the sky will not fall, Chicken Little. Like cats won't sleep with dogs. And if they do, that's cute. Like nothing bad happens. It's everything's going to be okay. This is not, and marijuana madness, I dare say, is one of the most effective marketing campaigns ever.
Yeah.
And the most believed, and the most false. But it's hard to get out. I was a DARE kid. I actually went in and taught
Nancy Reagan.
DARE.
Yeah,
Man. Actually, one of our graduates was one of Hassan Rashad, was one of the little black kids that she grabbed to go stand next to her to just say no to drugs on the national stage. Yeah, and now he's a Oaksterdam graduate. That's right.
Really wild. Yeah, I remember the commercial, "This is your brain and this is your brain on drugs."
Crack sizzle.
Oh, yeah.
And just, getting over that. And now, I have young people walk up to me and they're like, "I've wanted to do this my whole life."
Yeah.
How old are you? And I do the math. I'm like, oh shit. First off, I'm old. And then
I feel you. You're not old,
but
and neither am I, but I feel so old sometimes.
It is their whole life. Yes, good genetics.
Yeah.
But it's Irish. They don't remember when it was more dangerous to get caught.
Mm-hmm.
It's and so many, it just don't understand and don't appreciate it, and how lucky that they don't have to think about it. The problem with that, though, is we're not there yet.
No.
And we're still ripping babies from their mother's breasts. Yeah. We're still arresting 17-year-old Hispanic kids because that's who's getting pulled over, is Black and brown and indigenous, no matter where you live.
Right.
That they're still more likely to get shaken down for whatever it is, and go to jail now because they're underage. We really need to take the teeth out of the criminality, so that, because, the cops that I've met in the field, by and large, the frothing prohibitionists are the lobbyists. Yeah. They're the ones that represent the police officers' associations. Most cops on the street, you want a good laugh? Ask them about the last marijuana bust that they were scared for their life. Yeah. That is not their biggest concern out there. It is a tool in their toolbox. And they're like, if you take this tool out, I'll simply use another tool. Mm-hmm. I just need to know where the damn line is and tell me what matters to you, community. And then once we change that line, that our cops here in California are still being taught police officer standardized training, post-training is still the training of the 90s, that we're all a bunch of just drug-addled idiots, and you should go crack some skulls, and all of this is just a bunch of bullshit. They're still being taught the old standard. And so we also have to demand at the same time that we're all educating ourselves, and good Lord, come out to your mama if you haven't yet, that you are a cannabis consumer. Yeah. Have the conversation with the people that love you of why you choose this, and what happens. Show them your success, not just your goofy side. Yeah. But it's just continuing the conversation and remembering that there are folks on the right side of prohibition, but there are still folks on the wrong side of prohibition. Mm-hmm. And that, again, we're not done yet. There are still people sitting in prison as we speak on this issue. People. More than you can possibly imagine. Yeah. And it's just
for nonviolent drug offenses.
And in fact, some of the most egregious, they were RICO cases, my friend. They weren't even caught with cannabis or cash. It was just some other criminal fingered them.
Yeah. Rich DeLisi, he was on the show. He did 32 years. He spent 32 years in prison behind bars.
It is a travesty, and they're leaving young children behind, and moms that are trying to raise those kids, and moms are giving birth in shackles still in Texas. We are not done yet.
Right.
And if you've got that great Aunt Betty in Texas, give her a call about this. Yeah. Her governor, her legislature need to hear it. But, if you live in my district, call the ones that vote for it too.
Yeah.
Because otherwise they only get called to like get yelled at of what they,
Yeah.
when people are pissed. Sometimes you got to call them and say, thank you. Good job. Do that again.
Texas is so strange though.
Oh,
right?
Texas is so strange.
Yeah, Texas
you want to
is
have a
such
conversation
strange,
about Texas now?
So my parents live in Texas.
How many people are we going to piss off?
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Are you from Texas? I should ask that first.
Yeah,
no, we're good. All right.
Yeah.
You don't want to piss off the
Right. Totally. My parents live in Texas.
Yeah. Our founder lives in Texas.
Yeah.
We had a lot of students from
and Texas is like starting, they're okay with CBD now.
Yeah. Hemp's great.
Hemp is great.
Yeah.
CBD is great. They have stores that sell THCA.
Could we replace the attorney general? Could we agree on that maybe?
Oh, that's a rough one.
Yeah. I mean, I'd love to go for the governor, but let's just start with the attorney general.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the people are starting to demand change, and the people are, we got Austin. There's a lot of Californians going out there to Texas.
That's what I'm hoping is we'll just kind of change it to
they're like changing the landscape out there.
What? Register to vote, friends.
But and I like Texas for what Texas, some of the stuff in Texas.
Well, and I'll wrap this back to the beginning of the conversation because I'll do that for you, which is, the Christian conservative right. So Richard's mom, Ann Lee, founded RAMP, Republicans Against Marijuana Prohibition. And so she is showing up to CPAC over the years and having this conversation. And then all of a sudden, Rep Boner is now repping cannabis. So, there's a lot of change that comes from both sides of the aisle. And this is one of the things that we can all agree on. We can sit around that campfire.
Yeah.
Probably won't sing Kumbaya. But at the end of the day,
but that's okay.
Depending on where you live, it's the Dems that are standing in the way. Yeah. So, this isn't a red or blue issue. And frankly, it's an American issue.
Yeah. Agreed 100%. It's an American issue, and we as Americans should be addressing it. It doesn't matter what side you're on, left or right. It's like, it just needs to be addressed by all of us and at least thought of thoroughly by all of us. I think because if you thoroughly think about it, you'll understand that it's not a bad thing, and legalization is the best thing for all of us.
A lot of folks say, James, it's weed. Like, this is not my top 10.
Yeah.
I've got so many other things to worry about.
Right.
All right. Well, what is in your top 10? And let's talk about how marijuana prohibition has fucked that up.
Right.
Is it your kids? Is it your schools? Because right now we're more interested in putting people in jail still than in school.
Right.
Where are all these resources going? And what are the cops focused on?
Mm-hmm.
We have rape kits that have sat on shelves for over a decade because they're so focused on testing that green shit in that little bag, finding out whether or not it's something that's never killed anyone, except for one recently. That I think is more of a workforce issue of dust. It's not.
Yeah. That was asthma related.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a tough one.
I just wanted to acknowledge her death because it was attributed officially to cannabis. But at the end of the day, we used to say it takes about a ton to kill you. Falling from about 10 feet.
Yeah,
that you have to be crushed physically by the cannabis.
I mean, I've tried. It just
well, you have to. They say if you smoke 5 pounds or 10 pounds in 5 minutes, I think. Yeah. So, like, smoke the telephone pole outside in under 5 minutes. But it's not even the cannabis that kills you; it's the CO2 poisoning,
right. And the lack of oxygen.
Exactly, and you can't eat enough; you'll split your gut before the cannabis itself can kill you. So, and it is a conversation to have. We are moving so much of this into labs, especially to like subjugate the law, that we've been contorting CBD and hemp.
You may feel like you want to die from over-consuming, but it is not going to kill you.
It is not going to kill you. But there are now, and I'm not here to be an alarmist, but these are new constituents that are being created, and we don't fully understand the safety profile or how long it stays in the system. Again, we just have to understand like what you are doing in the lab to convert Delta 8. What magic are you doing behind the scenes? Because, a lot of the stuff, it's not, vaporizing is one of the healthiest ways to consume cannabis, but not if they're adding vitamin E acetate to make it more viscous and give you a bigger puff of smoke. That could kill you. So what are we adding? How cheap is that metal that you're heating up and sucking in,
Delta 8
mainlining to your brain?
Is Delta 8 bad for you?
We don't know.
We don't know.
And probably not.
Probably not if you're using good starting material. If we're talking about an enzyme, using enzymes as a pathway to convert it. I mean,
and we know as well, and this is, I think, a larger issue, is that because cannabis and hemp, same plant, are bioaccumulators, that a lot of folks are buying what they can find, which is industrial hemp, which is not fit for human consumption.
No.
And because it's a bioaccumulator, where was that grown? If it was grown in China or Russia, because we were the number one importers from Russia up until recently, and China, as a matter of fact, of hemp. And what is that grown in? What kind of heavy metals, radioactivity?
Chernobyl. Yeah.
Now, the good news of that is reclamation. You know, we've had students come in from Japan after Fukushima having whole conversations about how hemp can help reclamate that soil, because it can.
Right.
And so this is what I think is like the biggest travesty of, like, wow, aside from prohibition, this is what we really got wrong. We've whiffed on the benefits of hemp.
Yeah.
And there was this brief moment where there was a gold rush towards hemp, but they forgot, oh shit, we got to process it. And oh, we need a market to sell it to. Like, oops, you know, you forgot to build out the full supply chain, but so close. But in the meanwhile, all of the opportunities for fiber and fuel and building materials, and all everybody wants to do is go convert Delta 8. Like, that's all that matters, is let's go compete with the legal cannabis market. Yeah. And meanwhile, the legal cannabis market is struggling under all these the taxes and the burdens, and then Joe Schmo is selling the same shit at Circle K.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a tough one. And, you know, there's so many uses for hemp. It's unbelievable. You know, hempcrete, bioremediation, soil remediation.
It's the largest, growing in the ground, it is the largest carbon sink crop we can plant.
Yeah.
Like, we can do it, people.
Yeah.
Like, just
we have the knowledge. Let's just apply it.
Come on, Johnny Appleseed, James, just give me the seeds. I'll spread it across the earth. Yeah. No, that's what I'm saying. Like, let's go.
You get the helicopter.
I'll see you in South Dakota.
Right.
Yeah. Come on, Christy. I'll see you soon.
Yeah. I mean, I saw something on a Indian reservation that's got funded for hempcrete. And so they're going to be doing hempcrete, which I think is great.
It is so exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you start to really study with building materials and what that can do to start to offset carbon, which is all we keep talking about. And the longer it sits there, the more carbon it continues to accumulate, from what I understand as well. It just gets stronger over time. We've really got to figure out how to unstick this stuck. And again, I've got to go back to descheduling, because I don't see, again, I get incremental, but you've got to shoot for the flipping stars to catch the moon or next door.
Yeah.
Right. And if we just keep settling for good enough, we're never going to get to good.
Yeah.
We can
settling
do this.
is a bad thing.
And, you know, at the end of the day, I hope people just keep showing up. And this is something one of the things I try to leave our graduates, which I call Oaksterdam gladiators, they're the first through the wall, sometimes get bloody, make money. You're a trained fighter, right? And you've got to advocate for yourself, for your business, for your choice, for your freedom. And that means showing up to vote and showing up for jury duty. And like, I get that same like, oh, God damn it. Every time I get the jury duty. And then I remind myself, you know, it still goes down in California. Right. What's going on in Arkansas, and the ability to get on a jury that is trying a marijuana case. And, you know, jury immunity is something that a lot of us missed in civics, that you're not just judging the defendant, you're judging the very law that put him there. And you can hang that jury because marijuana isn't a crime.
Right.
Yeah.
Totally. So if you had one piece of advice for yourself, going back to the younger self that was in the industry for 1 year or 2 years, what would that one piece of advice be?
Get over yourself. I was in a position to have even more conversations than I did in rooms with, you know, I've had a lot of conversations with powerful people, but I've also been in rooms with folks that I just didn't want to ask. I had a hard time asking for help, and having that conversation and just getting over the no. I wish I had asked more. Yeah. Because I regret those things. I don't regret most of the stuff I've done. I regret those missed opportunities, because by not asking, by not talking, it was a no.
Yeah.
I never opened my mouth. So yeah, I think just, tell your story and don't be afraid you're bothering people. I still feel that way. Like, I'm not going to bother them. They don't have to talk to me. And then later on, I'm like, damn it. Why didn't I just go shake their hand and thank them for their trouble? So yeah,
Nice.
I would say just get over yourself.
I feel you.
It's hard. It's hard to get over yourself, isn't it? Yeah.
Sometimes, sometimes it can be hard. So now, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Still with Oaksterdam, doing your thing with Oaksterdam? And
I bleed green and gold.
That's awesome.
Yeah. This, so we were rated in 2012, and that was by the Obama administration.
Yeah.
And that's when I took over the school. This is legacy at this point for me. It started with my husband almost 30 years ago, and It came back to our family. I still see myself talking to Congress. I've had the opportunity to talk to several other governments of other countries, but I still need to be on that floor. And again, we're not done yet. And the good news about education, James, is we're never done. There's always more to learn. And whatever the government decides to do, there's more to do.
Yeah.
And whatever state you live in, whatever country you live in, whatever it is you love about the plant, I know genetics and growing, cultivation. I strongly recommend that everyone plant a seed and try it. And the development that we are doing with the school, they made a movie about it. There's a documentary out now that you can catch in various film festivals that really captures the history of the end of prohibition. It captured legalization in the journey, nearly there. And so also just making sure that folks catch that fire, see the film, take a class, and find ways to better themselves, whether it's just as a patient trying to understand how this affects them, or their nephew coming out of school and looking for a new career. I think workforce development and helping people rise in their careers, which ironically is how I started in life. And now I'm doing it for the cannabis industry. And it's just beautiful to see and hear the governments that I now work with spewing the same thing that I was saying with a microphone in 2007 when people thought we were fucking crazy.
Yeah.
It is amazing to see the change. And we try to encourage people to be lifelong learners. And it's really just, where do you want to grow from here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and the second you get rid of ego, you realize that there's no mastery. It's all improvement.
It's a practice.
It is. And if you love it, you get up and you do it, and you learn from what you're doing every day, and you learn from other people, and it's also ever evolving and changing. So
it is amazing that you just brought me back to the one thing that I didn't finish earlier, which is fall in love with the problem.
Yeah.
Don't fall in love with your solution. That's how you get stagnant. Fall in love with the problem you're trying to solve, and it never gets old. You always stay at the cusp of what's new, what's next. Oh, something moved. How can I torque it now?
Right.
It shifted, go pull it, push it, do it. Just get up and do it.
Yeah. Be solutions based.
Yeah.
But identify the problem.
Indeed. And by all means, be part of the solution, not the problem.
Absolutely.
Indeed.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today. It's been a lot of fun.
It has. Thank you for inviting me. And I hope to encourage more females on your show. Growers love females. So
yeah, we're looking for females, guys. Yeah. And so if somebody's looking to find you, where can they find out more about Oaksterdam? And you have an Instagram, or where should they go? Yes,
I am Dale Sky Jones. And so you can find me on Instagram and all of the whatnots and such things, and OaksterdamUniversity.com. Oaksterdam.com is really a hub that is growing every year. And I think that's what's most exciting, is we are also evolving. And so if you've ever been to Oaksterdam, we're not who you remember. Come meet the new Oaksterdam.
Awesome.
Indeed.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, James. Have a beautiful afternoon, and the rest of you.